Ever feel that, like, even when you know something's totally irrational, your body's still freaking out?
Right.
Like, I swear, like, I have this weird thing about staplers, and
Staplers, really?
don't judge. It's the
Right.
worst. But anyway, it's like my body thinks it's a saber-toothed tiger or something.
Aha, I get it.
So clearly, we need to talk about fear, because today's deep dive is all about fear and focus.
Awesome.
And we're diving into this piece, the connection between fear and concentration,
Yeah.
by Yol Zur, who's a mental coach. And let me tell you, it's got some seriously interesting stuff about those, like, fight or flight moments we all have.
It's fascinating stuff. You know, it really makes you think about fear in a whole new way. The thing is, fear, it's not just some random emotion we experience.
Right.
It's actually something we inherit from our ancestors, like literally passed down through the ages.
Okay, hold it. We're talking like cave dwellers and woolly mammoths, that kind of inheritance.
Exactly. Think about it. For early humans, death was a daily reality. They were constantly facing predators, rival tribes.
Talk about a stressful work day.
Right. So for them, being afraid, it wasn't just an emotion. It was essential for survival.
So basically, we've got all this ancient wiring that's still making us jump at shadows, even though there's no saber-toothed tiger about to pounce.
Exactly. It's like evolution handed us this super sensitive fear response, and we're still trying to figure out the user manual. The thing is, this primal fear, it's a double-edged sword, right? On one hand, it can be a powerful motivator,
It keeps us safe, makes us prepared.
right? But on the other hand,
There's always a but, isn't there?
always, it can also be incredibly crippling, you know? It can make us freeze up when we need to be focused, like when
Yeah.
you totally blank on a test, even when you know the material.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like your brain just decides to take a vacation at the worst possible moment.
Exactly.
So how do we work with this, like, ancient hardware? How do we bridge that gap between primal fear and, actually functioning in a board meeting?
That's where it gets really cool, actually. Yul Zur talks about these two different approaches to fear, like Eastern and Western philosophies, and how understanding them can really help us retrain our responses.
Okay, yeah, I'm all about retraining my brain.
Eh.
East versus West, laid on me.
All right, so think about it this way. In the East, you have traditions like Zen Buddhism
Right.
that are all about understanding fear, like almost becoming friends with it.
Befriending your fear, interesting.
Yeah, it's this idea that, fear is natural, it's part of life, you don't need to conquer it, you just accept it.
Makes sense.
Now, Western perspectives, they often focus more on managing fear, controlling it.
So less about befriending it, more about setting some boundaries.
Exactly. And this difference, it actually shows up in some pretty unexpected places. Like Yul Zur brings up karate,
Karate, yeah.
which most people think of, kicking and chopping.
Sure. Lots of action movies, right?
Right. But it's really fascinating because karate actually originated as a response to fear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It started in Okinawa, and back then, people were forbidden from carrying weapons.
Oh.
So they developed this system of fighting using their own bodies as weapons.
Wow. Talk about turning a disadvantage into a strength. That's incredible.
It is, and it wasn't just about fighting, it was about facing your fears head on, finding a way to move through them.
So like a moving meditation almost.
Yeah, exactly. And at its core, karate is about discipline, focus, control, both physically and mentally.
It's that mind-body connection, right?
Absolutely. All those discipline movements, the intense focus, it's not just about perfecting a punch. It's about training your mind to stay present, even when you're afraid.
That's powerful. So with these approaches, the Eastern acceptance, the Western management, is it about choosing one or the other?
That's the thing. Neither one is, better. The key is finding a balance between the two.
Balance? Always with the balance.
Right. Because too much fear avoidance, you're living in a bubble. Too much fear dwelling, it controls you.
And nobody wants that.
Exactly. And this brings us to, I think, the most interesting part. All of this, the ancient wiring, the East meets West philosophy, it all boils down to what's happening in our bodies.
Okay, yeah, because fear is definitely a physical experience.
Oh, absolutely.
My palms are sweating just thinking about some of the things we've talked about. Speaking of physical reactions, the triune brain, any chance we can unpack that one?
Yeah.
Because honestly, it kind of lost me.
Triune brain. Yeah, that's the one. It sounds kind of intense.
It does, doesn't it?
Huh?
But it's actually a really helpful way to understand how our brains deal with fear.
Yeah.
So basically, think of your brain in 3 layers, right? You've got this like ancient reptilian brain,
Okay.
and that one's all about survival, like breathing, heart rate.
Keeping the lights on. Got it.
Exactly. Then on top of that, you've got the limbic system, which is where things get emotional. And this is where fear really comes into play, specifically in this little part called the amygdala.
The amygdala. Okay. So that's the one that freaks out when I see a spider and suddenly I'm on the couch, right? Exactly. That's the one. And here's the thing about the amygdala. It loves to overreact. Like it's constantly hitting the gas pedal even when there's no real danger.
Oh, I know the feeling.
Right. And sometimes it can actually hijack the third part of our brain, the neocortex.
Which is
The thinking part, the rational one.
okay.
This is the part that helps us plan, make decisions, be all logical and stuff.
So the amygdala is like the panicked passenger, and the neocortex is the one trying to steer the car.
Perfect analogy. And Yul Zur, he calls this amygdala hijack, which I love.
Amygdala hijack, yeah, I've been there.
Right. And it explains why, sometimes we just react in ways that we totally regret later. Like you say something in the heat of the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, why did I say that?
Totally. So what can we do about it? How do we, tame the amygdala?
That's the good news. We're not powerless.
Yeah.
Yul Zur talks about these practical techniques, things we can actually do to, hit the brakes on the fear response and actually shift into focus.
Okay, let's hijack. More like gentle redirection. I like it. What's first?
Meditation. I know. It seems kind of simple.
Yeah.
But honestly, even a few minutes a day of just quieting your mind, focusing on your breath, it can make a huge difference.
I bet some people are thinking, yeah, right, who has time for meditation?
I hear you. I used to think the same thing, but the thing is, it's not about emptying your mind completely, right? It's just about noticing when your thoughts wander and gently bringing your attention back to your breath.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
Exactly. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And over time, it can actually change how your brain works.
Really?
Yeah. It strengthens the parts that are associated with focus, emotional regulation, all that good stuff.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
meditation, check. What about thought awareness? What's that all about?
So thought awareness is about becoming really aware of your thought patterns, especially those fear-based ones.
Okay.
Those what-if scenarios that our brains love to cook up?
Oh, yeah.
Thought awareness is about shining a light on those thoughts and, questioning them.
Challenging them like, hold on a second. Thought, is that really true?
Exactly. And a good way to do this is through journaling. Yul Zur recommends actually writing down those negative thoughts.
Okay.
Because when you see them on paper, they lose a little bit of their power.
They do, it's true. So basically, we've got these ancient brains trying to navigate a modern world.
Exactly.
But the good news is we can actually train our brains to respond differently to fear.
Oh, you got it. It's about understanding how fear works on a physical level, a mental level, an emotional level, and then using that understanding to kind of rewrite our relationship with it.
I love that. Rewrite our relationship with fear. This has been awesome. I'm going to be thinking about this all week.
Me too. It's powerful stuff.
A huge thank you to you for breaking it all down for us. And to you, dear listeners, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, keep those amygdalas in check.